Hello, my friends. So, those of you that have been with me all day, and by all day I mean hitting me up in the chat comments like private messages and stuff like that, I appreciate you. And so, to carry on with what we were talking about a little bit this morning with the spell a day people, like, y'all, to be real, like, do you know how intense this shit gets with my life, right? Like, I tell y'all, I live the life, but, like, a lot of it is math. So, a really good example of what it is I'm getting up to and getting down with, right? So, Richard Cavendish wrote The Black Art. This is the copy that was from, this one's 1967. This is one of the first edition prints, but I've beat it to shit because this is my favorite copy. And so in it, I'm going to reference the Astrological and the planetary associations that are on page 192, right? So it goes through and tells you what time of the year for the 12 months each month it corresponds to for the zodiac house, right? Venus has 2 times a year, Mercury has 2 times a year, the moon has 1 time a year, the sun has 1 time of year, and that's all well and good. And so when you're conjuring stuff for various intents, right? Like, I don't teach you this stuff to use just for yourself. Like, this is designed so that you can serve your clients better. This is if your friends need help and you're the one that's watching this stuff and you're plucky enough to summon the information from the spirits, then by all means do so. And so we get up to conjurations and we get up to interacting with spirits and things like that. And so when you're dealing with the spirits, when you're making up your lists of who it is that you're going to conjure, why it is you're going to conjure them, you can create different overlays. You can... What do I mean by that? I mean, okay, so we're going to back up for a minute, and we're going to talk about the 72 spirits of Solomon, right? Now, Arabic magic and Jewish magic is mathematical. Yeah, I know. It's a lot of fun names for conjuring spirits and things like that and the effect that they take on when they are in manifestation, right? But me, to demonstrate, I've created a list. The numbers in red, you can pause the screen, so I'll give you a minute to do that. The numbers in red are the numerical values under each influence of the different planets. 1 ascribed to that of heaven, right? 2 being, or in this case, 1 being that of earth, the number 10, the 1 and the 0. So that is the earth that we stand on, right? 2 being that of heaven, that which is above us or that which is within us. 3 being that of Saturn, 4 is Jupiter, 5 is Mars, 6 is the sun, 7 is Venus, 8 is Mercury, and 9 is the moon. You can add in Neptune or Uranus if you don't want to use the Earth itself, and you compress the 9 and the 1, or you use the 11. Like, you can do a couple of different things. So it's your choice to explore and to develop psychically these connections. When you're doing magic with the number squares, when you're doing things like, again, I'm going to reference the black arts, or like the Seder square. Sado, Aripo, like you go Seder, and then you go down and you make the different letters. Each of those corresponds to a number. Each of those numbers corresponds to an astrological force or a planetary force. And so, to give you an example, like if for on the 10 by 10 square for the Earth, right? You've got everything adds up to 505, which adds up to 10. It reduces down to 1. Bathim, Bathym. On the number square, you would connect the numbers 2187. For Amon, Amon, you would connect the numbers 1465. Nibirius, you would connect 51293. Cimereus, Cimeres 39451, right? And you draw these sigils out in the Planetary Ingredients. And how do you get the Planetary Ingredients? Well, you go through the classical repositories of what is ascribed to the elements of the earth, the fire, the water, the whatever it is that you're trying to conjure. And you can do 4 different states per different entity. Now, if you get tired of fucking around with the same entities and the critters that have been used for generations, and they call them the genie and the sub-Loki or whatever it is, but it's a pattern of interaction. You are, in this case, acting as God the Creator. You are creating in your ritual environment the spaces of these entities. So you are blending that which is 1. You are blending it that which is 1 and 2. That which is 1, 2, and 3. You're blending it that which is 1, 2, 3, and 4. You're blending it which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Or you're blending it what is 1 and 3, or 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 6, 1, 3, 7, 1, 3, 8, and 1, 3, 9. You get the idea, right? But you can also do the blendings of, say, for example, things like this. You could do the 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 2. You could do the 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2, 9. You could do the 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 2, 8, 9, and so on. And you can change up the order value of the numerical pattern that you're doing on each of those squares. So you can redraw each of the squares 9 separate times by connecting 9 separate patterns. That would be the 9 of 9 on the 9, right? And then you would do the 8 of 9, or you would do the 7 of 9, and you would do the 6 of 9, you would do the 5 of 9, you would do the 4 of 9, the 3, the 2, the 1, and so on. And so for each 9 applications you have 81 different spirits that you can do. So I mentioned the other day that there's 81 different things that you can do, and this is how you generate that, right? So if you watched the Rite in the Afternoon yesterday, I talked about there's 81 different planes that you can hit all at once because you've got the rotation. Well, this is the mathematics behind the rotation, right? So when you're applying this in conjuration, you're able to use these things to benefit your magic. And what do I mean by being able to use these things? Well, you can then go back through with the numerological table that you generated, 1 through 9 on top, A through I, and then you've got the other 3 rows, or the other 2 rows after that, right? And so you can combine the vowel sounds, because when you start adding in sound, and then you start adding in the layers of sound, when you say the 1 that is 3, that is 4, that is 5, that is 2, that is 7, and 9, come forth by the spirit of whatever that is, whenever you make it. It could be the three layer word, right? And so if you study the Shah HaMempharash, which is the 72-fold name of God, right? It's because it's technically the 9 times 8, right? Like they don't go for the 9 by 9 because that would be the perfect square. That would be everything in creation. So therefore you'd get the 81. But they go for the 9 by 8 to get the 72. And so because you already got the 1, you don't need to double it up, right? So that's how you get to the 72-fold name, right? Is you've got that which is 9 times those 8 different variations of the first through 8 categories that fall into whatever subsect you're working on. And so therefore you can have 72 different aspects under 81 different applications. If that doesn't give you a headache, I don't know what will. And that would be what you can use to summon the totality of creation if you're using numbers. Okay? Now this is where it's going to get a little bit more fun. Those numbers correspond to different states of planets. Those numbers correspond to the root mechanics of all things that are. And so when you're dealing with proto-magic, when you're dealing with the foundation of magic, I'm talking about stuff from Israel, I'm talking about stuff from Samaria, I'm talking about stuff before the picked writings of the Sumerian, or the Egyptians, which started to differentiate between different parts of the bodies of things, right? Like they started to subdivide the bodies. Like a claw will do a different thing than an eye, or a tooth will do a different thing than a tail, or the liver and the heart and the spleen and all the different body parts inside, right? Like that's the inner world versus that which comes as the outer world. So when you start mixing ingredients, not just plants, not just the concepts behind the foundations of how things correspond together, and you start looking at the body, like you have the 108 bones in the body, right? Like there's 108 different attachments of energy that you can use when you're just using bones, specifically of the humans. You can do more if you're going to use the alligator. You can use the alligator head with the human body. You can use the child's body if you're going, again, this is old magic, so they would do this to elevate the dead. They would do this to elevate their ancestors or to connect them in different ways. So I'm not saying that you should be desecrating anybody's body for any purpose. But this is what happens when you combine animal magic with numerical magic meets the spirit that you're trying to engage with, right? And so different number clusters were ascribed to different behaviors of spirit. Right, different behaviors of understanding and different applications of those things when you're trying to get manifestation. So they would call it different things in the text, but at the end of the day, everything reverts to numbers. So that's where magic gets fucked up for a lot of people, is they don't realize that John Dee, when he was doing the Enochian stuff, he was also a mathematician. Like everything came through the 1 through 9. It's all the different relationships of it. It's the different planes of all of the different layers of the cosmos, right? Like you can get the 72-fold layer of creation if you go through the Enochian end, the different ways to summon these things. So when you're intoning the name of the spirit, you're inviting an energy to come into form. And so by coming into form, you're giving it a means to manifest. And by inviting that manifestation in, you're creating the representations of it. And those representations are the sigils, the glyphs, the incense, the colors, the associations of the planets, the evocations to the planets, okay? That's all the thing and the entity that you are artificially creating. Now, where it gets interesting is you've created this totemic construct. It is an external force to yourself. Now you have to figure out, how are you going to connect you to this external force? Well, in the ancient magic, you had to actually cultivate your body. You had to go through the ordinations. You had to go through the ordeals that would line your body up to each one of the different paths of working. You would have to go through the different gates of the planets. You would have to go through the ordeals of those things, right? The 78 tarot cards, you'd have to go and you would have to experience each one of those cards, right? In order to be able to understand what they actually mean. Like, you can have the book meaning of it, and then you can have the experience that you lived. And so when you're doing these kinds of interactions with the math, and you're starting at the beginning, and you're doing the conjurations of things, and you're starting to make your own spirits. So instead of calling upon the plant spirits of like Mulleen and Mugwort and you, bringing those things together, right? Like you is the ancestor tree, Mulleen is the graveyard, and Mugwort is the psychic visions, right? So you've connected the psychic mind to the spiritual body, to the ancestral body, and by that you've created the foundation of a spirit, right? And then you can use that ink, which would be toxic as fuck because of the U, which slows down your heart and will kill you. Like, it'll kill you dead if you're not careful. You do these things to be able to connect with things on purpose. So you create a path, you create a journey on which that energy can flow. And by you creating that narration, you're giving it the pattern, you're giving it the experience, you're understanding and unlocking for that energy, which you have made external to you through your ordeals, and you're overlaying them together. And by that overlay, you're creating the manifestation. So that way, what you numerically create at the most root level of experience and existence, you can then go and say, well, I'm going to make the numbers 1, 3, 2, 5 correspond to these letters of the alphabet. And so when I say 1, 3, 2, 5, under the spiritual influence of whatever it is, could be the sun, the moon, Jupiter, whatever. That's what you're going to conjure forth, right? So to give you an example, Witchery is from the sphere of Mercury. So it would be the number 8 is the ruler of it, right? But the numbers to get there are 1, 7, 2, and 9, right? Without any duplication, without any repeating of the numbers. And so you can start to compound creation when you start to repeat numbers. You can start to overlay differences and variations. So you can say Sytry, Sytry, 1729, but because you've duplicated the Y, you've duplicated 7, right? And so it'd be 17297, right? So it would have a loop back into it. So that energy would replicate itself. So you would have the active and the passive quality of it. So you would have that thing which would push it, but also that thing which would receive it at the end. Right? And so you see, this is how you can create the spirits, is if you create the foundations of what's inside the recipe of creation of them, you can then go and expand upon them. You can then go deeper into what they mean to you and what they mean to the world around you. So here's a good one. Furfur, right? It's 639639. It's replicating itself. That is the reflection. That is the moon. Its number is 9, right? Its lettering is FUR, FUR. It is the reflection of itself, right? You could do rough if you wanted to go for the inverted reflection of that, RUF, RUF, right? And that would still be on the square of the moon. It would just be its inverted property of that. So if Furfur is the demon, rough would be the angelic force of it. So you could use both properties of it, and you could flip them back and forth depending on which dimensional state that you use. So if you need to create something where it's balanced here and imbalanced over here, you can create an experience that overlays and compounds those. And so this is probably going to piss off quite a lot of people that are all about making these entities what they are. I'm all about creating entities anew. So these are the foundations that I give you, and I'm going to leave it there today, my friends. But I hope that you use this information to your best benefit. And by doing that, that you can create from the foundations of the world. And since we live in a mathematical universe, if you use mathematics as the means by which to channel spirits, behaviors, and energies into totemic form, you have the means by which you can conjure something better. And so we use the numbers to determine the recipes of those things that we are creating. So we can go through and we can take those herbs that we have used for the last 4 weeks and 7 days. And we can go through and create the numerical understandings of what the names of them are based on their Latin characters, or we can do it based on their just their standard English name or their folk magic name, right? Like we can do that, and then we can make a sigil, and then we can draw that sigil out, and then we can use the compound blend of those things and create a multi-layer spell on top of that. So that's one way that we can do that. And for tomorrow, I'll demonstrate how that is done. So yeah, this is gonna get interesting, folks. So as the Rite in the afternoon kicks out and we start picking this up, like this is practical magic, but it takes the foundations of power. And it says, okay, well, this is what the ancient books are doing. This is an example of what our ancestors did. Like Volak, right? Spirit of Mercury, VOLAC, right? 4631 is its number, right? But what I really like is under Mercury, it also goes into Caim and Raum. CAIM, its number is 3194. RAUM are the numbers 9134. So you're just transposing what is 3 and what is 9, and you're still having the 1 and the 4 in the same spot, right? And so you can do shit like that. And what happens then if you go for 3491, right? And then you wanted to invert that again, and you would do 9431, right? And then you have their inverse. right? So you can play with this stuff and you can recreate the sigils and you can create compound layering of the sigils to get the different understandings of the 81 different aspects that you can conjure if you were going to do everything at once. But again, this isn't about doing everything at once. This is about getting very, very myopic, very, very specific into the thing that you're doing in your ritual. You know its numbers, you know its planets, you know its timing, you know its behavior, you know the embodiment of the herbs that are going into it, you know the folklore that those herbs are responsible for, and you know the outcome that everything compresses into. And so therefore you're creating the singularity, and it is through that singularity of your experience and through the experiences of our ancestors in time and folklore and math. Everything is programmable. You don't have to wait 6 months to a year for something to manifest. You can make it manifest faster if you do the math to do that. If you can figure out the math, if you can figure out the ritual, if you can figure out the invocation or the evocation that will get these energies moving accordingly and to stimulate in just the right sequence, right? That which is consulting with heaven, that which is consulting with Saturn, that which is consulting with Virgo, or you could do Virgo, you could do Leo, right? Again, you break them down to the planets. You reduce them to their simplest multiplier, so that way by having the simple foundation, you can make it specific and you can make it launch, right? You can send your spells out into the world by going deeper with it. And so by being able to use this kind of application of it, you're not limited anymore to what the books are saying. If you understand what I've told you today, you can go and make your own entities. And you can recreate grimoires, or you can create new spells that will do the same thing that our ancestors were doing, because they understood that numbers and spirit and the planets and the words and the vibrations and all of those things, they are not separate to the work that we do. And if you are looking to get individual creations from those, you would create 72 separate entities, because they already contain the element of the 9, so they don't need to be replicated. The 9 doesn't have to be duplicated. It doesn't have to be in its singular form. It doesn't have to be the 1 and the 9. It doesn't have to be the 1 and the 2, the 1 and the 3, the 1 and the 4, the 1 and the 5, the 1 and the 6, the 1 and the 7, the 1 and the 8, the 1 and the 9, right? Those are already contained within the applications of the other. You have the master numbers, and then you have the subgenie. You have the things from which they descend or ascend, depending on which way the number pattern goes. And so if you can understand what these are doing, and you can go and look at it like this, you'll have the foundations for much, much deeper witchcraft, much, much deeper magic. And so the application of this to interact with your entities, to interact with your conjurations, it opens up so many different things that you don't have to be limited to specifically the 72, right? But from the 72, you can make the 144. You can make the 64. You can make the 10,000 things, right? And by being able to replicate the 10,000 things, you've replicated all things in creation. If you're using the 8x8, right? Because so this is where the hexagrams and the Arabic magic go a little funny. Like, or at least the magic that I use. I can't even call it Arabic. I can't call it Judaic. I can't call it any of that, because this is my understanding of it, looking at it through a numbers perspective, looking at it numerological math magics, right? Because this is all the numbers of magic that go into the elements of what would be the spirit of the thing that I'm trying to conjure. So I look forward to seeing you in the comments, my friends. I look forward to seeing how well this augments or breaks your system. But this is math. And this is what we replicate when we conjure spirit. This is when we call out spirit from whatever plane or whatever place that we're doing. When we use the numbers, we don't have to... It's not that we're not using God, it's that the numbers are expressing the divine aspect of what is nature. So we are separating out this one thread from the other 72 aspects of it. We're just taking this one thread and saying, you, there, right? Bette Midler and Hocus Pocus, you, there. And the boy flies across the room and hits the ladder, right? Because that's the same effect we are having when we say we are conjuring this spirit. We are bringing this spirit to this purpose to do this thing, right? And we are custom making it depending on the relationship of the numbers that we are trying to achieve based on the understanding of what 1 through 9 represents before we start getting into further convoluted applications of it, right? Like you could go, like an example of Orobus, right? Orobas. It's 696211, right? So you have 2 elements of the sun and 2 elements of the earth, right? Or you could go Malphas, Malphas, is 4137811. So you've got 3 elements of the earth, but it starts off with Jupiter, then it goes to the Earth, then it goes to Saturn, then it goes to Venus, then it goes to Mercury, and then it goes back to the Earth twice, right? And so as you're developing these things, as you're building these things out, these relationships become convoluted. The more focus that you can have as you get your work done, as you go to make these foundations operable, you can take a turnip and you can create it as the likeness of an individual. You can use that and bind that individual spirit to a turnip. You can bind it to an onion. You can bind it to a carrot. You could bind it to a cactus if you understood how. How does all of these different things correlate to what it is that you are doing, and how do they relate to the numbers and the foundations of those numbers? And how do they, through the words that you're saying, through the meaning that you're giving it, manifest accordingly? And so by this you can not only do the whole of Western magic and most Eastern stuff, if you look at it from the perspective of when you go to call down an entity, unless you know for a fact that that thing is an individual just like yourself is an individual, right? But it's the living personification of it. And you're calling it forth out of time. You're calling it forth out of space. You're bringing that intelligence into the space you're working in. So it's like calling on a friend, because you exist as you, but if you go through the effort of breaking down your body numerologically, your mind, etc., 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 these are like the celestial phone numbers that allow you to deal with the cosmic dial tone of reality. Right? Like you can call up and say, I want to work with you so that way you accomplish the property of Y. Right? I'm calling you for this purpose. Go do this purpose by these ingredients. I'm giving you the form, I'm giving you the body, I'm giving you the resources, I'm giving you whatever it is that this energy needs to manifest. This is what you're doing. This is the foundation you are applying. So that way, as you start dealing with external entities, external intelligences that will take on the form of jinn, that will take on the form of fae, that will take on the form of spirits of the dead, things like that. Everything resonates accordingly. But this is the mathematics that you can use that will set that up. So that way it makes those squares that are in the back of the Abramelin text viable. That'll make the squares that are inside the black art viable. So you can understand that those, when it's got an S, it corresponds to this ingredient, or it corresponds to that planet, or it corresponds to this time because of the type of year it is. All of that stuff is in the correspondence books. That's why those correspondences exist, is because they're telling you what are the relationships between the heaven and the thing you're trying to accomplish. So that way there is a through line of energy. You are basically creating the singularity of string theory, right? You are creating the string of quantum entanglement. You're entangling so many different aspects that in their nature, in the way that they live their life, in the time of their life, from the time they were born to the time they die, they represent these energies. And you're building that thread. So that way when you create that thread, that outcome, that wave pattern, that singular particle you have brought forth, creates the wave and the ripple effect That way your will manifests in that specific desire. And it takes out the guesswork. It negates the need to work with gods. It negates the need to work with entities specifically. And it's this kind of thing which, if you do it right, can aid you in your properties. They can aid you in your purposes. They can aid you in everything that you do. So be safe, my friends. And I look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now, y'all.